Shooters, this is Fortune Cookie 45 LC coming to you from the Hot Lead Zone, and we're into 2015 now. I'd like to share with you a couple of books. One written by Elmer Keith in 1946, Keith's Rifles for Large Game. Now, we often think of Elmer Keith as associated with handguns and pistols, 44 Magnum, 357 Magnum, this kind of thing. But he was also big in the development of cartridges for rifles, as well as shotguns as well. It turns out that Elmer Keith spent a lot of his younger years as a big game guide on over 200 hunts for game such as elk and big mule deer, moose, and bears, this kind of thing. So he has a lot of experience in the field actually seeing game taken, and what he learned he put into this book. And a lot of the work that Elmer did with the noted shooters of the day in developing cartridges led to what we have today. If you love rifles for big game and perhaps are or aspire to be a big game hunter, you'll find this book to be 400 pages of fascinating reading, actual hunts. Plus, he discusses all kinds of subjects like sights and types of rifles, calibers, this kind of thing. Find out why Elmer says that our beloved 30-30 is inadequate for game larger than deer, and that the 30-06 is actually marginal for game larger than deer. I'd like to thank Sportsman's Vintage Press, company that has reprinted these books for us, and very well done, very well bound, printed, very clear, easy reading. sportsmansvintagepress.com. If you're interested in getting these books, that's the place to get. I'd like to share another book with you, and that is this book, Bombs Away, by John Bruning, and it was published in 2011, and this book begins with the Battle of Britain and how important that battle was, because had Britain been lost, it would have been very difficult to have mounted an attack on Fortress Europe. Now, I've seen a lot of books and a lot of photos on the subject, and I don't know where John Bruning got all these photos, but these are all photos that we haven't seen before. Give you a glimpse of that, even a photo of the cleanup on a B-17 after it comes back from a mission, all the empty shell casings all over. All kinds of great photos in this book. But it's not just the photos, it's the writing. Because, give you an example, the air war over Britain. One of the main reasons why Germany lost the Battle of Britain was that their Messerschmitt Me-109s had as little as 10 minutes of time over the target. So they couldn't protect their bombers against the Spitfires and the Hurricanes, and suffered tremendous losses. All those pilots they lost were irreplaceable. Turns out the finest minds and engineers in Germany could not overcome the problems to get drop tanks on their fighters. But on the US side, when it became apparent that the daylight campaigns in France and Germany could not succeed without fighter escort, what Colonel Cass Huff did was he did not rest until drop tanks were available for the fighters. Can you imagine how discouraging it was for the German fighter pilots to go up against the US bomber and fighter formations and see the US fighters drop their drop tanks before engaging? And knowing that had Germany had those same drop tanks over the Battle of Britain, that all those big losses in the German bomber crews didn't have to happen, plus they would have defeated Britain and taken over Great Britain. The air bases that these bombers flew from never would have been there. So the question becomes, what happens to morale when it becomes apparent that you're asked to put your life on the line and your country lets you down? Well, Colonel Cass Huff of the United States Air Force made sure that didn't happen. And it's very interesting to note that back in the 1930s, the late 1930s, that Cass Huff was the CEO of the Daisy Air Rifle Company, and almost every young boy in America had a Daisy Air Rifle. The book closes with a remembrance of the humanity sacrificed during that conflict. So this is a fairly recent book. You may not have seen it. It's available from Borders bookstore.